new VP fires me to hire his friend, accuses me of theft, and then triggers a federal investigation that bankrupts his career. For a bit of background, I work, or rather used to work, in a very specialized field of logistics, high-end medical device manufacturing. I'm not talking about shipping bandages or tongue depressors. I'm talking about MRI components and surgical robotics that cost more than my house. These parts have shelf lives, temperature requirements, and, most importantly, mountains of federal paperwork attached to them. I had been the senior supply chain manager for this company for 7 years. I built their inventory system from scratch. I knew every customs agent by name, and I knew exactly how to move a volatile component from Germany to Ohio without triggering a hazmat incident. My system was flawless. We had 0 downtime due to missing parts in 5 years. Then came Kevin. The company was bought out by a private equity firm, and the old CEO, a great guy named Dave, took his golden parachute and left. The new ownership installed Kevin as the vice president of operations. Kevin was the classic nepotism hire. He was the nephew of one of the board members. He had an MBA from a decent school, a wardrobe full of shiny suits, and absolutely 0 experience in manufacturing or logistics. From day one, Kevin had a target on my back. During our first meeting, he looked at my salary and actually scoffed. He told me, "I don't understand why we pay a box mover 6 figures. Logistics is just putting things on trucks. Amazon does it for free." I tried to explain about FDA compliance, customs brokerage, and ISO certifications. He just waved his hand and checked his watch. He said, "I'm going to streamline this department. We're bleeding money on compliance that we don't need." That was the first red flag. You do not put compliance in air quotes in the medical field. Over the next 3 months, Kevin made my life hell. He demanded I cut costs by 20%. When I showed him that 90% of our costs were fixed vendor contracts for certified parts, he accused me of being lazy. He started rejecting my purchase orders for essential packing materials because he found cheaper ones on Alibaba. I had to explain in writing that using non-certified packaging would literally void the warranty of $1 million machines. He didn't care. He started looking for a reason to fire me. He wanted to bring in a third-party logistics company owned by, you guessed it, his old college roommate. The incident that started the war happened in November. We had a massive order coming up for a hospital network on the West Coast. This was the fiscal year maker. If we delivered on time, everyone got bonuses. If we missed the deadline, the penalty clauses would cost the company millions. I had the supply chain mapped out perfectly, but Kevin intervened. He called me into his office on a Tuesday morning. "OP," he said, smirking, "I've canceled your contracts with the German freight forwarders. My friend's company, Fast Track Logistics, can do the shipping for half the price. Transfer all the shipping manifests to them by the end of the day." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Kevin," I said, keeping my voice calm, Fast Track is a domestic trucking brokerage. They don't have licenses for international hazmat shipping. They don't have the customs bonds. If we use them, the parts will get stuck at the port." Kevin slammed his hand on the desk. "I am sick of your excuses. You're just trying to protect your budget so you look important. I am the VP. You are a manager. Do what I say or I will find someone who can." I took a deep breath. I knew this was the end, but I also knew the golden rule of corporate survival. CYA. Cover your ass. "Okay, Kevin," I said, "please send me that instruction via email stating clearly that you are overriding my vendor selection and assuming responsibility for the customs clearance." He laughed. "Fine, whatever makes you feel better." 10 minutes later, I got the email. It was condescending and rude, but it gave me exactly what I needed. It said, "Per our conversation, transfer all logistics to Fast Track immediately. Stop wasting time with your overpriced vendors. I am handling this from now on." I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I initiated the transfer. I sent the files to his buddy's company. And then I printed 3 copies of that email. One went to my home, One went to my desk drawer, and one went to the HR director's physical mailbox. 2 weeks went by. Kevin was strutting around the office like he was the king of the world. He told everyone in the break room how he saved the company $50,000 in shipping fees just by trimming the fat. He was referring to me. Then came the Friday before the big delivery deadline. Kevin called me into his office again. HR was there. OP, Kevin said, looking fake sad, we've decided to eliminate your position. We're moving toward a more outsourced model. Today's your last day. They offered me a pathetic 2 weeks of severance if I signed a non-disclosure agreement. I looked at the severance package, looked at Kevin, and declined to sign. Kevin sneered, "Suit yourself. Security will escort you out. Don't touch your computer." Here is where the revenge begins. See, Kevin thought logistics was just putting things on trucks. He didn't realize that our inventory management system required a manual security token renewal every 30 days. It was a fail-safe I set up years ago to prevent unauthorized access. Only the administrator, me, could renew it. And guess when the token was set to expire? That coming Monday. I packed my box, smiled at the security guard, and walked out. I went home, cracked open a beer, and turned off my phone. Monday morning came. I slept in. It was glorious. Around 10 a.m., I turned my phone on. I had 27 missed calls, 6 from HR, 4 from the CEO, and 17 from Kevin. I also had a voicemail from Kevin that started angry and ended in pure panic. OP, pick up the phone. The system is locked out. We can't print shipping labels. Call me back immediately. I didn't call back. By 2 p.m., the email started rolling into my personal address. They were threatening legal action if I didn't give them the passwords. I replied with a single sentence. I was terminated on Friday and no longer have authorization to access company systems. Please contact the vendor. But that wasn't the big blow. The big blow was happening at the Port of Newark. Remember those parts Kevin insisted on shipping through his buddy's company, the Fast Track Logistics team? Well, the ship had arrived from Germany on Sunday. When customs agents went to inspect the cargo, they found highly regulated medical components labeled as general auto parts. Kevin's buddy had mislabeled the manifest to save money on tariffs. This isn't just a fine, this is federal fraud. Because the paperwork didn't match the cargo, the Department of Homeland Security and the FDA flagged the shipment. They impounded $4 million worth of inventory. Back at the office, the production line had ground to a halt. They needed those parts to finish the units for the West Coast hospital deadline. Every hour the line was stopped cost the company about $10,000. On Tuesday morning, a courier knocked on my door. It was a letter from the company's legal department, accusing me of sabotage and theft of intellectual property. I called my lawyer. We went to the office on Wednesday for a meeting. When I walked into the conference room, the CEO was there. He looked exhausted. Kevin was there, looking pale and sweating profusely. The HR director refused to make eye contact with me. OP, the CEO started, we have a crisis. The system is down and our inventory has been seized by the government. Kevin tells us you changed the passwords and messed up the shipping manifest before you left. I sat back and smiled. That is a serious accusation. I hope you have proof. Kevin slammed his hand on the table. You know what you did. You set me up. I opened my briefcase and pulled out the printed email. The one where Kevin ordered me to use his friend's company. The one where he explicitly stated he was handling this. I slid the paper across the table to the CEO. Actually, I said, I warned Kevin that his vendor was not licensed for these imports. He ordered me in writing to bypass protocol. As for the system lockout, that is a standard security feature. It requires a monthly renewal. Since you fired me on Friday, I wasn't there on Monday to renew it. That's not sabotage. That's just absence. The CEO read the email. His face turned a shade of purple I had never seen before. He looked at the date. He looked at Kevin. You used an unlicensed vendor for Class 3 medical devices, and you did it for saving 4%? The CEO whispered. He said he could handle it. Kevin stammered, pointing at me. "No, Kevin," the CEO said, his voice ice cold. "This email says you are handling it." The room went silent. "Here is the situation," my lawyer interjected. "My client was wrongfully terminated. You have accused him of criminal acts without evidence. Meanwhile, you have a federal investigation looming and a production line that is dead in the water. If you want my client to fix this, it's going to cost you." The CEO rubbed his temples. "What do you want?" I laid out my terms. Kevin is removed from the room immediately. I want a full year's salary for the wrongful termination. If you want me to unlock the system and help release the cargo from customs, I will do so as an independent contractor. My rate is $300 an hour, with a minimum billing of 100 hours paid up front. I want a written letter of recommendation from the CEO himself, absolving me of any wrongdoing. Kevin started to shout, "You can't do the—" "Get out," the CEO snapped at him. "Get your things and get out of this building, now." Kevin left the room in tears. The CEO signed the agreement. I got my check for the severance and the contractor retainer that same afternoon. It took me about 10 minutes to log in, renew the security token, and get the inventory system running. Fixing the customs issue was harder. I had to go down to the port personally. Because I had maintained good relationships with the customs officers for years, they were willing to listen to me. I explained that it was a clerical error caused by a new, incompetent manager. I showed them the documentation proving the parts were legitimate. Because I wasn't an employee anymore, I wasn't liable. I was just a consultant fixing the mess. The company was fined $250,000 for the mislabeling, and the shipment was delayed by 2 weeks. They missed the deadline for the West Coast hospital. The fallout was massive. The company lost the West Coast contract. The stock price took a hit. Kevin didn't just get fired. The company sued him for breach of fiduciary duty to try and recover the losses. Last I heard, he's working as a shift manager at a car rental place. As for his buddy's logistics company, they got blacklisted and shut down for customs fraud. I took my payout, which totaled almost 2 years of my previous salary, and took 6 months off to travel. I eventually landed a job at a competitor who knew my reputation. When asked during my interview why I left my previous job, I simply said, "New management decided to go in a different direction regarding compliance." I wasn't comfortable with that. The hiring manager laughed and said, "Yeah, we heard about that. We heard they tried to smuggle MRI parts in as car bumpers. Glad to have you on board." The moral of the story? If you're going to fire the guy who knows where the bodies are buried, make sure you don't hand him the shovel first. And never mess with the people who handle the paperwork.